For this DIY, I'm going to be making a garland to hang on the window at my home, and I'm going to use this galvanized Dollar Tree Valentine's envelope. The first thing I'm going to do is I cut the twine off of it, and then I'm going to paint 2 good layers of Mod Podge over the entire front of it. Now I do let it dry completely between coats, and then before it is 100% dry, when it's clear again, but you can still feel it's a little bit tacky, is when I get my Dollar Tree tissue paper, or you could use a napkin. But if you do use a napkin, just make sure it is 1 ply. But for this, I use this cute tissue paper I found, and am going to put it to the front, and the tackiness will kind of help hold it in place while I use my heat gun to attach it to the front. So I am going to line my tissue paper up, and I wanted all the hearts facing up. I think it might have been cute if they were facing kind of at an angle, but this is just the way I decided to do this. And you see, I smooth it down. I start from the middle and make sure it's smoothed down into the heart grooves, and then I start smoothing it down on the edges. And like I said, it's still a little bit tacky, and that helps hold it in place. Now when I do the heat gun, I try not to hold it in place too long, because after I heat up that spot, the residual heat will continue to heat up the surrounding areas. So I just kind of hit it with a little bit of heat, and then smooth it down with my hand, and then move to the next small section. Now this is the equivalent of doing it with an iron, only since there were ridges on this, obviously I couldn't iron it and get it to hold. So the heat gun or a hair dryer works great. And I did one of the rippled pieces of galvanized metal that you can get at Dollar Tree with the same technique to try it out, and it worked really good. The only different thing I did was I heated up the back of it, and then I smoothed down the front to where the metal heated up, and the metal does get pretty hot, so be super careful. But where the metal stayed hot, I was able to smooth down sections at a time, and it worked out really well. But for this one, I decided to go for the front. That way I could keep a close eye on whether I got it down in the ridges and make sure I didn't tear it. And that is why I did it sections at a time, so it would not tear. Because if you get it held down all on one side and then you try to go down into the middle groove, obviously it's going to pull because you don't have enough to cover. So after I get it heated up, it is attached to the front completely, and I am very careful to make sure I have it heated and attached to the edges. I just take a sanding stone or a piece of sandpaper and just pull downward and sand off the excess tissue paper. So it only takes a few swipes in each section, obviously, because it's tissue paper and it's really thin. It's not going to take much to get it off there. But just be careful, like I said, to make sure you pull down, because if you go side to side, you can grab the tissue paper and rip it. And I honestly did rip it here in a little bit when I was sanding some on the front, but I was able to patch it, and I will show you that closer to the end. Now that I have all the edges sanded off and the front is finished, at least the first part, the first section is, I am going to try to paint those raised edges. And I thought I would like it at first, but I found out that the paint obviously soaked into the tissue paper and made it kind of bleed, so it didn't have the finished look I was going for. Even though I was trying to do very small amounts, it just didn't work out the way I wanted. So I'm still going to go through and show you that because DIYs, you'll have mistakes, and I know sometimes people on YouTube make it look so easy because if they ever have mistakes, they can edit them out. But I wanted to show you that if you do make mistakes like this, they can be fixed and still turn out super cute. But just be aware that the paint could bleed, so you want to use only the tiniest amount if you try to go this option. Now I did, once I painted the edges, I filled in the circle, or not the circle, but the heart in the center with that red paint to kind of just have the heart, I don't know, look kind of like a starburst off of it. But once it was painted, I looked at it and it bled some, so I decided I didn't like that as much. So I then took my sandpaper after the paint was dry. I took my sandpaper and just ran it on top of those raised edges, and it kind of took away some of the red and let the galvanized metal show through, and I thought it turned out super cute doing it that way. So you may just want to opt out on the paint. That is totally up to you, but I didn't like it once it was finished, but I loved it once I took the sandpaper just lightly to it. Now, if you do use the sandpaper on the raised edges, be super careful, because that is where I ripped my tissue paper, and it was easy to do. And see, here I go way too fast, and right there is where I ripped it. So just be careful and go slow. And maybe if you use a finer grain sandpaper, that could help. Maybe it wouldn't grab a hold as hard. So once I got done with it, I realized that I had ripped it, so I grabbed another piece of the tissue paper, just a tiny little triangle piece, and put it right where I needed it, and then heated it up and smoothed it on, and it covered perfectly. I can't even tell that there was a mistake there, and I was looking pretty close. Once my envelope was complete, I decided that I wanted to use these little heart ornament cutouts that you can get at Dollar Tree. They come like 6 to a pack, I believe, either 6 or 8. And I just needed 2 of each of them, and I was going to paint them and then string them on my twine to complete my garland. And then I ended up adding some of the foam roses at the end. But all I did was I used this Waverly Crimson Red chalk paint and painted all 4 of these front and back. I gave each of them just 1 coat, and they were ready to go. Now that I have everything painted, all I did was I string 2 of the hearts on this twine that I also got at Dollar Tree. I had to get the thinner stuff because the holes on these hearts are pretty small. But I put 1 heart on, and then I tied a knot to hold it in place, and then I ran the next one on and then tied a knot behind it so it wouldn't shimmy down once it was hanging. And then I was able to put the envelope on, and I tied knots behind each of those. That way that wouldn't move, but I don't think the envelope would move anyway, just based on the weight of it hanging on this twine. But you definitely need the knots on the hearts if you want them to stay in an even pattern and stay where you want them. So then once I got to the other side, I tied the knot where I needed it before I put the heart on. And I hope this makes sense, but at the beginning you put the heart on, then tie the knot, and then on the opposite side you tie the knot and then put the heart on, because you don't want either side to move down towards the envelope. So I hope that makes sense, and you'll see me doing it here. And then once I complete that, I will just put some of the pink roses in between each set of hearts. And all I did was hot glue those to the twine. And then this garland was complete. I really hope you guys enjoyed this DIY. I really love making it. I'm not huge on Valentine's Day decorations, but this one I really loved. and I had a request to use this envelope. So it took me a little while to think of how I wanted to use it, but this came out so cute and I absolutely love it. And if you guys love it, make sure you go down and hit the thumbs up button right now and hit subscribe. And once you hit subscribe, hit that bell notification so you get notified every time I upload a video. And I will see you guys in the next one.